Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is Off the Bat, brought to you by Green King Sport. Joining me as always is Mr. Joe Smith. How are we doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. And we've got a guest with us as well, Chris Wheeler from the Daily Mail is with us. Chris, good to see you back on the channel. How is everything?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right at the moment.
Busy.
Yeah, busy, definitely busy.
Okay until Sunday.
Yeah.
Make the most of it.
It's been an interesting week. Make the most of it. It has been an interesting week. I want to go back slightly. It's not been a good week because we've been knocked out of Europe, but we did face Bayern Munich and Harry Kane, of course. Earlier on this week, I saw a piece that I think you've written about Harry Kane. Just talk us through that a little bit, because myself and Joe were talking in the summer. There was rumours that maybe Harry Kane could be coming to Old Trafford. You were mad keen, weren't you?
Yeah.
I remember me and you having a debate, Osimhen or Kane. Obviously, he went to Bayern Munich. What went on there with Harry Kane? Because there's obviously, like you've been reporting, that there was a chance that he could have come United. United wanted him. What was the sort of the situation?
More than a chance. And I'm in the same boat as you. That I'd absolutely one of those that would have loved to see Kane come to Old Trafford. I think, pure and simple, Man United, Erik Ten Hag wanted Harry Kane, and Kane, his first choice was Old Trafford. Simple as that. And it could have happened, and it should have happened. And I think there was two problems. The first problem was Kane's wages. I think people talked a lot about the fee, and it's obviously not a small fee for a guy who was like 30 years old. But the wages, I think, for Man United, that was the breaking point. I think it was 500 grand a week plus. And for them, they're trying to come down from that point, trying to come back from those days now of paying that kind of money. And that was the first thing, was the wages were just too much. The second thing was Daniel Levy. I think Man United were very wary of the fact that he wouldn't sell to a Premier League rival. He told them that. They didn't push it, and I think the fear from their point of view was that he would have strung them along through the whole summer. They'd have been forced to hold back their transfer budget for Kane and not buy anybody else, not knowing what the price was going to be. And then their fear was on deadline day he would have dropped them and basically cut their throat. And that was a real fear for them. So very early on in the window, they decided, no, Kane's not for us. For me, I wish they'd have pushed harder. Certainly, in hindsight, I wish they'd have pushed harder. Mm-hmm. And then what's a little bit baffling after that, of course, is they got Mason Mount. No one quite knows why still. Andre Onana, some question marks there. And, of course, Hojlund. And Hojlund and Kane are two very different players. Of course they are. And I'm not in any way going to write off Hojlund. I think he's shown a fair amount, 5 Champions League goals. I think the problem with Hojlund is that, on the one hand, I think managers need players for now. And Hojlund's talked about as a guy who's got potential, he's one for the future. And I don't think that Erik Ten Hag's got time. He hasn't got time for Hojlund to go and develop into the player he wants him to be. And the second thing, I'll stop talking in a second, is that Hojlund, I don't think it's benefiting him right now.
No.
As a player who is developing in this team, it's not a healthy environment. He's not developing in a way that people would want him to, or he wants to. It's not like he's having a good time right now.
Yeah.
And this is not the best team or the best place for him as a young man to be developing as a top striker.
It's embarrassing for me that this idea that Kane would have been up for, probably been up for coming to United. Ten Hag wanted him, and we just went, no, we can't. We can't make it work. What's the point in trying? Let's get strung along by Atalanta and pay 65 million quid for this lad instead. Who, like you said, I like Rasmus Hojlund, but again, we've sort of hamstrung or potentially sort of hindered his career by making him the main man already. Yeah. Martial's not up to it. We've seen that for 3 years. We're bringing in Rasmus Hojlund to start every week for Man United. That's not fair on him. And you're not going to get the best out of him. It's not just as simple as, well, if he was ever going to be good enough, you can stick him into any environment and he'll succeed. Players sometimes need the right environment to get the best out of him, and it's like we don't know that, and we're bringing him in to just start every week, not score a Premier League goal so far, and who knows what player Rasmus Hojlund will be in 2 years, or what player he might have been if we'd have got him and Kane, or him, Kane this year, Hojlund next year. Like, we've just sort of rushed into what seems like certainly a decision that hasn't helped Ten Hag, and one that I don't think is helping Rasmus Hojlund either.
And that's a really good point too, is the fee that you mentioned, because when they began looking at Hojlund was 30 or 40 million pounds maximum. That became 72 million pounds, And now how and why and the whole SEG thing and all the rest of it, I don't know, but that was way above what they were hoping to go and pay for Hojlund. And so the whole reason for not doing Kane and going and doing Hojlund mainly was money.
Yeah.
And you end up really getting so close to that Kane fee anyway. Certainly in hindsight, you think, well, why don't you just go and do it? Because you knew what Kane was going to bring. You know, okay, he's 30, he's got a 34-year-old's ankles. I get this. But you knew he had the experience. He's not just even a goal scorer. You know, he brings other players and he makes goals. He's a team leader.
Yeah.
He's an all-round. He's absolutely fantastic. And it was a match made in heaven. It really was. And it should have happened. I mean, make no mistake. He wanted Man United and Ten Hag wanted him. It should have happened.
Kane's not just like, this is what I was saying in the summer, he's not just like, oh, a good little goal scorer. He's one of the best English footballers of all time. Yeah. He's one of, if not the best striker of his generation. Like, he's not like, oh, you know, he gets you a few. He's guaranteed 20 goals a season, minimum 20, maybe 30, maybe 40 if he's having a great, like, what we, this idea that, oh, he's not worth a few $100,000 a week when we're paying any old Tom, Dick and Harry 350 grand a week. Yeah. Well, Harry Kane, who's a proven world-class player, he ain't worth that. It's just, I was never keen on it. And the more we see this season and the more pressure that we see putting on Hojlund's shoulders and the more that I'm seeing memes of him and, you know, him getting pocketed by Upamecano and all these things, it shouldn't have had to be like this. It frustrates me just, you know, hearing that Kane would have been up for it and United went, well, you know, we don't want to get de Jong'd again because we're so incompetent that we can't get a deal done unless it's absolutely easy. And even then we paid double what we should have done.
Yeah. Do you think there was a scenario whereby with Kane, United could have made that deal happen? They could have stuck with it and gone, look, 100%. Kane wants us, we want him, we're going to pay those. Those wages are extortionate, but let's be honest, we've paid a lot, similar wages for players that are a lot worse than Harry Kane. Let's go with it. And Spurs had to sell him because I think Levy was under instruction that you've got to sell him this summer because
he had to go. So Levy may have been saying, I won't sell to you, but you got to try, you got to test it, you got to push for it. I think very early on there was a scenario. They looked at several scenarios, but one was selling two strikers, and they looked at Kane and maybe Evan Ferguson, getting a young striker in behind Kane, which also made sense, by the way. The problem was once Ten Hag decided to ditch De Gea, they needed the keeper. And the keeper wasn't going to come cheap. So effectively, Onana took the money that would have been put aside for a second striker.
I mean, at the moment, it looks like a lot of these decisions were bad decisions. Onana's not really setting the world alight. Hojlund's struggling to score. Long term, it may prove to be a good idea.
Maybe.
You know, Onana's 27, I think, and he has had some good games. Hojlund, like we said, is a youngster. But at the minute, it doesn't look great. And also, there's that question about, is Ten Hag even going to see this through, these decisions? Because it does feel a little bit like...
That's what I said.
Yeah, with Ollie with the Van der Beek sort of thing, and you know, he didn't, you know, buying Palestri and Diallo for the future that he wasn't here to see. It does feel a little bit like that, doesn't
That's
it?
why I completely understand why Ten Hag wants Harry Kane, because he wants a guy who walks in the door on day one and transforms the place. And he would have done. He would have done, you know. And instead he gets Hojlund, looks like a real potential, like a really decent young striker. £72 million? No. But the problem is, long before Hojlund realises that potential, I think Ten Hag's going to be gone.
Just on the Ten Hag front, because obviously he's under a lot of pressure. We're out of Europe, not just the Champions League, but Europe. We had that horrible result against Bournemouth, which is not the first bad result we've had this season, or at Old Trafford this season. We've got Liverpool coming up. How much pressure do you feel is on Erik ten Hag now? Are we looking at the end game here, do you feel? Because it's not just Liverpool. We've got West Ham away, we've got Villa at home. These are tough games, and it's not really going well. Well,
he's clearly in a pretty bad place right now. I think what's going on at the moment is a little bit unique in the sense that with the Ratcliffe issue, I think you have a situation now where Erik ten Hag is under less pressure than he would normally be if he was doing what he's doing, because the current regime are backing him for now, but they also, I think, would rather hand this problem on to the next lot. So I think he's less likely to get sacked than he would have done if it was a normal situation. But I think when Ratcliffe does come in with Dave Brailsford and the Ineos people, I think he's in a bit of trouble. I think,
There's been a lot of talk about Graham Potter today, and we saw that yesterday, and then other names. Julian Lopetegui's been mentioned, and a couple of others as well. do you think that Ineos have got, have maybe not contacted people, but have got a sort of internal list of names of, likely candidates? Do you see some truth in this part of stuff in particular?
I think they have to have, because I don't think they're sat there. It could get confirmed any day now.
Yeah.
When it gets confirmed, you're talking between 6 and 8 weeks for Ratcliffe to be operationally active, on the ground, actually pulling strings. However, clearly any big decisions that get made before then, he will be part of that. So will Dave Brailsford. So it would be ridiculous if they weren't looking at the situation, looking at Ten Hag's future, and looking at the people that may come in if they do go and call time on it. But as I say, in terms of where he's at right now, unless there's a nuclear meltdown, unless Sunday goes beyond all of our worst nightmares and they have to do something, as you mentioned, happened with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he was meant to go into that season, things went very badly. They brought it forward, got rid of Ole and brought in Ralf Rangnick. Unless that happens again, I think Ten Hag is okay-ish for now, but very much not okay when Ratcliffe comes in. He needs to turn things around.
It's a bit life support machine, isn't it?
A little bit. So,
he's alive, but as soon as we flick that off, he ain't.
You'd say endgame scenario, not quite there yet, but
Right.
we're entering that kind of phase where it does feel that unless he turns things round very quickly, then I think when Ratcliffe comes in, Erik Ten Hag's in a world of trouble. Yeah.
What's the sort of general feeling about the squad at the minute? Because we keep hearing these sort of reports, and I know it was pushed back by the club, this idea that half the squad isn't with Erik Ten Hag. Do you feel there is a belief in what he's doing from the squad? Because you can look on the pitch and say, are these players really, is it working? Is that tactics? Is it effort? What's going wrong here? But it's not, something's not right. Do you feel like he still has this squad behind it?
I think in any squad you get cliques, you get little factions, and clearly Eric's fallen out with Jadon Sancho, but that's a fact. Yeah. I think there are people in the squad who don't like how that's been handled. I think they look at it and they think, training on his own, eating on his own, isn't it gone a bit too far now? I think there's some sympathy there. He's fallen out with Varane, obviously. Again, that's not good. He's a senior player, World Cup winner, 4 times Champions League winner. In Ten Hag's position, he's not the kind of player you want to be falling out with. And also like Marcus Rashford, something's clearly not right there. So
do you think that's a falling out issue? Do you think that's a personal problem between him, or do you think it's
falling out? I just feel Rashford's maybe not having him now. I think and that's what you get when things go bad as they are at the moment. I think you do get a kind of splintering. Players start to hide a little bit. Players turn their back on managers, and so it's not kind of are they with him or they're not with him. I just think you start to see a lot of the little kind of fractures start to come to the surface when these things happen. So the squad behind him, I think, in the main, yes, but I think players are naturally quite selfish, not take care of themselves, and they need to turn things around very quickly. I think it's important to get Martinez back. I think he's a galvanising figure. He's a great player, obviously. Yeah. But I think he's a galvanising player. He's a leader, and I think he'll do great things for that dressing room if as and when he comes back. But they need him back. They need Casemiro back. They just need players, good players playing well. It's obvious. But,
some of these though, obviously, like you said, Jay, Liverpool, Villa, West Ham, not quite that order, Liverpool, West Ham, Villa, and the next 3 games, could feasibly drop points in all 3 of those, to what degree remains to be seen. That might be it. That might be enough for him. But, Martin isn't going to be back before those games. Casemiro isn't. Malacia isn't. I know he's not the be-all and end-all. Luke Shaw probably isn't. Harry Maguire probably isn't. Mason Mount isn't. Eriksen isn't. These games that are deciding his future are going to be played without 7 or 8 of his biggest and most important players. Certainly 4 or 5 in, Martinez, Casemiro, Eriksen, Luke Shaw and Maguire. Those lot aren't playing these next few games. There might just be sort of no chance for him. Yes. Part of me just looks at the situation he's had, and the fact that, and I've been saying this all last year, I said it, and because I noticed it about 2/3 of the way through the season, I kept my eye on it, it never happened. It's certainly not happened this season. Ten Hag has never been able to play the starting 11 that he would pick if everyone's fit. You know, the one you see who he picks when they're fit, and both right backs are fit. Okay, it's Dalot, both. He's never been able to play that for one reason or another. Whether it's Martial being injured last season, whether it's Luke Shaw in and out, whether it's Varane and Martinez getting injured at the end of the year, Casemiro being suspended. He's never had his first choice 11 start a single game for United, and he might never get to, and he'll be gone, and someone else will come in, and everyone will get fit again, and we'll look good for a bit, and then. But I just feel really sorry for him in the sense that, you know, how can he be expected to win games with great football? Look at the bench the other night. We're a goal down to Bayern Munich, and you've got Joe Hugill, who's barely ever played for United, Dangor, who's barely ever played, Kobe Mainoo, who looks promising but has barely ever played for United. And I think Reguilon was probably, and Johnny Evans were the sort of senior players, and Reguilon's alone. Yeah. Like, the options he has are so limited, and I just feel like, you know, just because of how results-driven things are, he's probably never going to get the chance to actually see his own potential just with the squad he has, let alone with transfers we could make with a new director of football. I just feel really sorry for him personally.
And we talked before, didn't we, about how Eddie Howe's getting all the kind of sympathy for Newcastle's injury problems. But I think for Ten Hag, the biggest criticism of him is the lack of identity. You know, even when he's had players in, players out, you look at that team and you wonder, what are we doing, where are we headed with this? Bournemouth on Saturday, you know, you've got Iriola's been in for like 5 minutes. Yeah, they've got his fingerprints all over that team. They've got his style, you know, stamped on that team. And then you look at Manchester United and 18, 20 months in, £400 million in, and you say, what is our style? What's our identity? Where are we going here? I think if people could see where we're going, they'd be a lot more confident and have faith. I think they look at it in the moment and just don't know quite what we are.
It's weird, isn't it? We always end up at this position where, you know, Van Gaal, we got to a point where, where's the style of play? It's just boring. We never score. You know, the same with Jose. Ole's got no tactics. It's just, you know, all vibes and all that. Ten Hag is a bloke who's had clear style of play at Ajax, clearly very tactically driven, a sort of disciple, if you want to call it that, of Pep Guardiola. He's obsessed with tactics and detail, and yet once again we see Manchester United with, you know, this sort of ever-evolving squad make a manager look thick and look devoid of ideas when they clearly all aren't. Yeah. It's just, for whatever reason, they go, we're not doing that anymore, we're out, see you later. Ralph Rangnick, the father of pressing.
Gegenpress.
Remember that one? You're going to try and tell me
that was sold. That was missold to me.
You're going to tell
I was made to feel thick.
He didn't have any tactics.
I didn't know what Gegenpress was, and it's like, well, this guy is going to teach you all about Gegenpress. We saw it for 40 minutes against Crystal Palace.
And they didn't, and then we gave up to do it. And it's not because he didn't have tactics, it's because the players couldn't be asked. Yeah. And that's what again frustrates me so much.
You know, it makes me smile when we went and lost to Brighton and people, De Zerbi, you know, and then Bournemouth, Areola, and Ange Postecoglou, and it was Graham Potter, going back to Graham Potter question. These guys, Ten Hag was that guy. Yeah. He was that vibrant young coach who put his mark on teams, who got the best out of players, who got young players coming through. He was that guy. Yeah. And like you say, Van Gaal, Mourinho, they all come to Man United and their brains turn to mush. I don't know what happens. Well, something happens when they walk through that door. It's like kind of vortex.
Yeah, I mean, look at Potter at Chelsea. There was no clear style of play there. All this amazing Brighton 1-2s, high press, all that fell apart at Chelsea because we have to realise that it's not just about does he have a little tactic on a whiteboard. It's everything: the media, how we treat the club, the pressure, this, that, and the other, the players. Like, great managers can look foolish and clueless at Manchester United, and we're seeing it again.
Exactly.
We are, but as you know, yes, 'tis the season for festive football, and the best way to watch it down at your local Green King Sport pub. Of course, Christmas is the time to catch up with your mates, watch a bit of football, have a nice drink, have something to eat, all that good stuff. You've got food, you've got the live action that's happening. It's going to be a right Christmas cracker.
It is, and every single fixture from TNT, whether it's Sky or Amazon, every single televised Manchester United fixture this season is on at your local Green King Sport pub. Every single one. Don't bother with this dodgy, weird stream in your attic and you're trying to hold an aerial out the window to get some stream from somewhere you've never heard of. Don't bother with that. Go down to your local Green King Sport and check out the action there.
Download the Green King Sport app. There's a link in the description and you'll receive 10% off every single drink every time the sport on the telly at a Green King Sport pub. What more could you ask for? Chris, you did an article recently about naming the 5 issues I don't know how you managed to keep it down to 5. I think you could have done like another 100, to be honest with you. That could be like the phone book, that article. There you go. Yeah, it's a volume. Yeah, there's several volumes. I mean, when Sir Jim comes in, it's obvious he's got his work cut out, and to get Manchester United going again, it isn't just the manager. There's a whole host of issues.
No, we can talk all day about Ten Hag, but it's not just Ten Hag, and it's not just the players. It's the management in terms of the middle management of the club who have been in charge the best part of 10 years now. It's the owners, of course, that's been well documented. It's a club that has got problems from top to bottom, and he's walking into that, and it clearly won't happen overnight. They've got a lot of work to do. Where do they start? I mean, there's a feeling that next summer is a real day of reckoning for them, because you've got a lot of players put together through different managers, like Martial goes back to Van Gaal, right the way through until now. You've got, obviously, the kind of whole contracts thing, but FFP is going to bite really, really deep, even more so now after what happened on Tuesday night out of Europe, £28 million black hole there. So it's really not good. He's got a lot of work to do. Next summer, he's got to try and clean house, get some of these players out. Who's going to have them? Try and get them off the contracts. Try and get some new players in on a budget that's going to be smaller than ever.
It's annoying, that 20 million. We could have wasted that on a
I know, yeah, that could have been. We could have spent. That could have gone towards the next winger that doesn't work out.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
But seriously, guys, seriously, when you talk about going back to the whole Kane Hojlund thing, you save money by getting Hojlund, not Kane. But probably Kane would have been the guy that got you through to the knockout stages.
And the difference in price between Hojlund and Kane was not 72 million to 100 million is exactly 28 million.
Exactly.
Funnily enough. Yeah,
there you go. Serendipity. But,
I know you've not got a magic wand and a crystal ball.
You don't know.
That's more appropriate.
You don't know that. Yeah. You're guessing that.
How long?
Don't assume anything.
All right. Okay. Let's say you have got a crystal ball. Look into it for me, Chris. Right. Tell me, how long do you think it was going to take to just get Manchester United moving in the right direction? Because so Jim Ratcliffe comes in, he does the things that we expect him to do. He brings in a director of football. He brings in to Dave Brailsford. He brings in maybe Jean-Claude Blanc, is it, or Paul Mitchell or whatever. Maybe he changes the manager. Maybe he brings in some of the names we've mentioned, or maybe someone better. He does up the training ground. He does all this stuff. He restructures the football side of things. How long do you think it's going to take before we start seeing a real positive change at Manchester United?
Honest answer is I don't know. But what I would say, as a comparison, you look at when Jurgen Klopp came to Liverpool and what had happened before him, going back, through those, 10, 15 years prior to that.
Yeah.
It didn't take long. If you get the right man in, or the right people in around him, the right owners, if you've got the right coach that you've picked, the right director of football around him, if you get these things right, things turn around quite quickly. You can put together a decent squad in 18 months, 2 years. You've got a good coach there, gets them playing well, winning games, winning trophies, won the league, won the Champions League. Things turned around quite quickly there. So, look at Man City too. I mean, obviously that was more of a slow progression forward, but from when Pep came in, there was one dodgy season, and then after that, it's been pretty much, home free all the way, So things can turn around quite quickly. It's taken 10 years of rank mediocrity to kind of sink to where we are right now. But I think things can turn around quite quickly if you make the right decisions.
People always overlook it as well, but Abramovich came in at Chelsea and won the league sort of 24 months later. He came in the summer of 2003, and by the summer of 2005 they were champions. Like, it doesn't, and they were further away from the top of the league than United have been over the last few years. So, like you said, it doesn't have to be that long. If you make the right, let's say 2 or 3 good windows in a row, that might be enough.
Exactly.
So I remain optimistic, but
exactly. And once again, with that kind of equation, the key element was getting the right coaching. Jose was the perfect coach for that club at that time.
Yeah.
It just absolutely caught fire. It was perfect. Klopp was perfect for Liverpool. Pep Guardiola, equally perfect for Man City. I'm not saying that Erik Ten Hag can't be perfect. I'm not saying that he's done, he's toast, it's all over. But it can still turn around. I've got my doubts, but it can still turn around. If it doesn't, as long as they get the coach right, and the things round him, then it can happen quite quickly, yeah.
Do you think that could be a part of it if Erik Ten Hag stays? having that structure around him, because it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we've gone from one extreme to the other way. We've gone from managers getting players bought for them that they didn't particularly want to just going to the manager, who do you want? We'll have him. Other than Frankie de Jong, of course, but with and Kane, who you mentioned, but Anthony, Martinez, I love Martinez. I'm not knocking these decisions, but I'm just saying it does feel a little bit like, Mount, Onana. Malacia. It's just like whoever you want, we'll get. Do you think a structure around Erik Ten Hag, well, maybe he's reined in a little bit, or
absolutely, yeah.
That could help.
Yeah, I mean, clearly under Erik Ten Hag, there's been too many Dutch or Dutch-based players coming in, players that he knows, players that he's worked with. I think they need to get back to a system where the club buys the players with a kind of strong-willed director of football who's very, very well connected, and the manager or the coach comes in and coaches those players, and ideally he's a coach that works well, and he works well with those players. If he doesn't, then you move him on, but it's not as though when he moves on you're left with all of his players, which is what's going to happen. If Erik Ten Hag goes tomorrow, we have a stable full of Dutch players that the next guy won't really want. And if you look at the signings he's made, like you say, I think Martinez has been fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought Casemiro last season was fantastic. That deal's not aged so well. And really, beyond Martinez, I'm not looking at too many great signings.
Just one final question. Do you expect much to happen in January in terms of transfers at United? Because it's sad to say this, but we're already looking ahead at January going, could this save our season? Do you think there's going to be much business there? Because you mentioned FFP before as well, which is obviously a big issue.
No, I don't see much at all. I think you'll see Sancho has to go.
Yeah.
Van der Beek has to go. Yeah, he'll go out on loan. I think they mentioned Eintracht Frankfurt. There may be a bit of business to be done. I mean, there was talk about Malen at Dortmund. It's a possible switch for Sancho. That might make sense. Yeah, that one would make sense. He's a SEG client, so he's already halfway there, and he's Dutch, so he's 3/4 of the way there. So Malen perhaps in, Sancho out, Van der Beek out. Maybe one or two, but no, the club are consistently saying we expect almost nothing in January.
Expecting nothing.
Right.
Feels like the preview for the Liverpool game.
Expecting
nothing.
I'll tell you, would you accept a 1-0 defeat on Sunday right now?
No. Never.
But privately?
Off camera, we'll talk about it. But on camera, absolutely no, Chris. What sort of United fans think I am? Accepting defeat at Anfield. Chris, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for coming and chatting to us. And being honest as well. It's not always what we're here, but at least it's the truth. Go and check out Chris Wheeler's writing at the Daily Mail. Big thank you to Green King Sport as well, sponsoring this podcast. Big thank you to Joe Smith. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.